parents, I think the biggest thing when it comes to mental health is just making it known that you're there for your child. I think it's really tricky, especially if, the parent doesn't know so much about that sport and doesn't necessarily relate to the athletic, ability or interest of their child, but just checking in. I think checking in, being like, how was practice? For instance, my mom has no idea, doesn't know anything about sports, but
Yep.
always would check in, always would acknowledge that I was at practice 7 days a week, always would acknowledge my games. And even if she had no idea what was going on, would check in. And I think that goes so far, just acknowledging, that your child is doing this thing, and then also letting them know that you're there for them. I think that's key. And another, and then talking about mental health, I think, we're lucky right now because it's so prominent in the news in the world.
Yes.
And I think, that's a fine dinner table conversation, just being like, wow, look at what Simone Biles did. And looking at these role models and these incredible women that are at the peak of their sport that have acknowledged that they aren't okay. And I think that is a natural transition to also talk about with your kids because they've likely seen it. And that's something that's out in the open and just a natural transition. So, acknowledging mental health on a giant platform like the Olympics is being like, well, what do you think about this? Do you think that's cool what she did? Or how do you feel about that? Is a natural way to check in on your child. So I would say that's what I would say. And I also think just looking ahead a little bit, but if the kid is getting ready and looking at college sports, for instance, I think looking at what the school has to offer for mental health resources is key and really, really good to do as well. And especially in, if the child is looking to compete in Division I sports, what does that athletics program have for mental health resources? Because that's something that has evolved so much from my time. Every program essentially now has a whole team dedicated towards giving players resources to succeed on the mental side of their sport. And so I think, that's a conversation for, juniors or sophomores, juniors that are starting to look at universities to see, okay, well, or for the parent to also point out, look at what this school has to offer for resources if, you ever need them.